All right, you let me know when you want to like officially start.
I mean, we can start now if you want, dude. Let's do it.
All right, we're started.
Okay.
Been a long time. First time, first time, long time. Actually, I looked. Um, did you look last time we sat down and recorded?
No, I haven't.
You're not gonna believe it.
I haven't looked.
What would you say?
Um, Year and a half.
I hope the people are feeling warm and fuzzy. I mean, if I wish they knew how many times we've scheduled to record
I know.
over the last year.
Is
So
that how long it's been?
the last episode we recorded, I was either just getting ready for the Backyard Ultra or it was right after the Backyard Ultra, which was the first week in December.
Oh, that's right, because we never updated on the marathon either.
No.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So, I mean, I guess we have a lot to talk about, but maybe we'll try and not spill all the tea tonight, and
Okay.
maybe we'll record again.
Yeah, we'll do some catch ups, and I mean, first off, shout out to their whole reason why we did this tonight. Um, I got a DM. Some of you may have seen it on Instagram. I got a DM from a listener from way back in 2021, Heidi, and she sent in a voicemail episode back in 2021 about paying off her mortgage or investing, and I remember that episode. That was like episode 21
One,
or yeah.
yeah, 21.
And man, that's so long ago. It's so crazy. And she said, she's like, I remember you saying like I think I remember this. I was talking about doing both, paying off your mortgage while investing. You're more like on the investing side.
Yes,
She messaged me last night or 2 days ago and said that her and her husband come December 1st will be mortgage free.
and I think it's wackier that we've been recording podcasts for that long. Number one,
That is crazy.
and number two, that like people listened.
Well, it's so hard though, dude. Like most of the time, like podcasts, we say this all the time, but podcasts are so much different than YouTube. Like
Yeah,
YouTube, as soon as you post a video, you're getting analytics thrown in your face. Like you know where the video is ranked from the past 10, the
yeah.
comments, the feedback, the views. You see the little ticker of like where your view jumps up when you post the video. And a podcast is like, all right, it's out there. Let's go.
I thought it was the 1-star review that we got because we don't record enough. Somebody wrote, so we got our only 1-star comment. So freaking go over to Spotify, please, and shun this man. No, don't shun the man, but just give us a good review for gosh sakes. But I think he was like, you guys should push through and try and record another episode before this year is out, or something like that.
That's
But
awesome.
but I mean, all right. So I I don't want to make excuses, but it turns out like between you were moving a bunch,
Hmm.
and then our kids got to a certain point where your kids were staying up a little later, my kids were going to bed a little earlier, and then me just trying to be like ultra marathon guy, I started going to bed at 7:30 p.m. And then when you finally moved back to Missouri, that made it even worse because now there
Yeah.
was an hour offset. So we've tried to record maybe the last 4 times where you're like, dude, I need like 9 p.m. Central Time. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I would love to do that, but I will be useless. Like my brain shuts off. But now that my hundred's gone, look at me staying up late, just vibing late. But we want to. It wasn't like, I feel like sometimes I was getting messages like we were sitting around going like, fuck the people. They want another episode. They swallow a fork, bro. Like that's not how it is. Like we love we love doing this.
We love it.
It just
Absolutely love it.
we yeah, I guess just life got in the way a little bit for the last
Well,
year. I mean, lots happened. But
yeah.
I want to go back to Heidi's thing
Okay.
because a lot has changed since 3 years ago,
Yes.
episode 21, right? I think we have over 100 episodes now, and God only knows what the name of this podcast is. Well, I'll figure it out when the title comes back out. Maybe we'll just go back to average money. I don't know, but is the advice still the same? I mean, you sold a house. It was probably since the last we spoke. You sold a house.
Hmm.
You lived in Florida and rented for a year and change.
Yep.
Then moved back to Missouri and bought a house.
Hmm.
in these high interest rates where it's impossible to buy a house, this, that, and the other thing, is the advice still the same, or is it even more now than it was then? Like, attack that mortgage, and and
Ooh, yeah.
who shouldn't be, because she did mention in that message, you were like, pay it off, peace of mind, and I was saying, I think you should invest the money instead of paying it off the mortgage.
Yeah.
Has your opinion changed? Are you still an all in pay off the mortgage guy?
Well, I'm both.
Now
That's what I
you
was saying. That's what no, that's what I said earlier in episode 21. I stated both.
okay.
I've never said that you should only pay off your mortgage. It's invest and pay off your mortgage.
Okay.
Um, but I'm definitely still a fan of attacking your mortgage payment. Now, if you have and I've said this before, if you have a 2.75 or 3%,
You don't have to
and
you don't have to say I've said this before. People don't remember.
okay, well, I'll say it now then. If you have a 2.75% interest rate or a 3% interest rate and you're good holding the debt, you're fine with it. You have a pretty solid job, pretty solid income, like
Yeah.
keep the mortgage and put all that money in an investment account. But for me, there's something about having that paid off mortgage. Like it's just nice not having that payment going out every month and I don't have to worry about it. It's also nice and to also a little update here. So instead of you asked about like interest rates and does that still apply? If anything, I think it applies even more now
Yes.
because if you think about it, it's interest rates right now are sitting in the low sevens. When you pay off your mortgage and you have a 7% interest rate, that's a guaranteed return on your money of 7%.
Hmm.
That's massive on six figures worth of debt. So yeah, I mean even more now. I'm in the I'm in the side of let's pay off your mortgage and get it done while you're still investing because I think investing is very important and the more time you have in the market the better.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty cool feeling, man, when you go to sleep every night knowing that you don't have that mortgage payment to do. So to update you guys on that end with buying a home in this high mortgage rate environment, my wife and I decided that we were just gonna pay cash.
Yeah.
So we just paid
And
cash for the house and
that's like, everyone's like, you can't do that. Like, who does that? Like, I mean, you worked really hard. You had the sale of your old house and you were renting this and the other thing, but like, it's not impossible. And also too, you went into contracting houses in Florida. Like, you
hmm
you looked for a good long time. And I think at even one point you were like, I don't want a mortgage so badly that I'm about to sell off my rental properties. You were even talking about at one point. I mean, the amount of times you and I talked about the different things, and I was always like, dude, just take a small mortgage. And you were like, I'm not going into a mortgage. I'm not going back to it after working so hard. And I think that's a true testament of like, yeah, you could pay for your house cash. It could happen. And I
hmm
mean, it's Missouri. The cost of living and real estate prices are probably a little lower than a lot of people that might be listening, but it
Right.
could still be done. You still made it happen. You still lived in Florida for a year or so and got back there.
Yeah. It was a tough decision to be honest, man. Like as far as the whole Florida Missouri thing goes, like we for a bit there, Lindsay and I thought Florida was going to be home.
Right.
And we still love Florida. We were in the St. John's area, which is in between Jacksonville and St. Augustine. Met some amazing people, made some great friends. My kids loved where they were going to school, and it was a place that we knew we could maybe call home, but it was also a little different. Definitely had the East Coast vibe, which we liked, but I mean, we're Midwest folk at heart.
Right.
Uh, and we also we started. Here's the one thing that really stuck out to us the most was we realized as time was going to go on, we were going to start seeing our family less and less.
Hmm.
Because the first like few months, everyone was coming out and visiting. Like it was like we were going to be on a vacation, but once it kind of settled in and was like, oh, hey, we're actually out here. Like we're not going back home because we traveled for the whole year before that, going to Maine and Florida and Arizona and all that stuff. And people would come visit and it was cool. And then, but once we settled down in Florida, everybody's like, oh, well, we got lives to do. Like, everyone's got lives. It can't be coming to Florida all the time. And my brother had his baby, my first nephew, and he's now, he just celebrated his first birthday, which is crazy.
Hmm.
My wife's sister, she became pregnant towards the end of our stay in Florida. And so she had her baby, a couple months ago. So like our families were growing, my kids were getting older, my parents were getting older, Lindsay's parents getting older, and Lindsay and I had a couple talks, over and over every night, just going through everything. A lot of big decisions in our lives were made in Florida. The dividend tracker stuff was made in Florida. So Florida was a very pivotal moment in my life, I feel like, but being able to decide that and decide that, hey, we did want to come back home because ultimately for us, family's number one.
Right.
And although we will very, very much so miss Florida, especially this winter in Missouri, I told my wife, I was like, "Hey, here's the game plan. Like down the road, maybe we'll get a little condo or something, and we can come back to Florida and be snowbirds whenever we get to that point in our lives." But I mean, yeah, I mean, we ultimately made the decision, come back home. Now we're living in a different area in Missouri than we did previously.
Right.
So we chose that for a couple different reasons. So now we're living by where my family lives, and that was really because there's some opportunity that I had on the real estate side of things that we kind of wanted to partake in, and that's ultimately has been a good option, or a good choice we made. That's starting to like reveal itself now. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot like it was a major life decision, like this is something that's going to change the outlook of our lives. And we were doing pros and cons every night, and we're like, oh, is this the right decision? And a lot of sleepless nights, and whenever we went under contract on that house, we every night Lindsay and I were sitting in bed, we're like, are we making the right decision? Are we jumping on this too fast? Are we sure we want to stay in Florida? Is this where we're going to call home? Is this where we're planting roots? Just every night we talk about it, and we were never 100% sure on that house in Florida. So like ultimately I decided, I was like, screw it. If neither one of us are set in this, like I'm not moving forward. We're pulling out. So we pulled out of that contract. And then, from there we were kind of just like enjoying Florida. And then once it got time for our lease coming up, we're like, all right, are we going to renew this lease for maybe just one more year? Or are we ready to go back home? And I think ultimately I was the one that was more like, I'm ready to get back home. I'm ready to get back home. I missed family. I missed Missouri too. Like I really do love Missouri. Like there's something about this area that's just it's home, man. Like the people are great. The people are nice. Everyone like is just wants to be a good neighbor and help everyone out. And so that was I think one of the ultimate decisions. And then also the opportunity I had with some real estate stuff here as well.
Yeah, and I mean, your kids too were getting older. It was easier to move to Maine and Florida when you didn't have,
Right.
but like, Mace now getting into like quote unquote real school,
Hmm.
right? That had to be a huge factor because you don't want a kid to, really establish a strong friend group, maybe get into third, fourth grade or so and playing sports. And then you're like, dude, we're out of here. So like, I think that was, I mean, in a lot of talks that we had, making that decision before the kids really, really got their dug deep roots in Florida is why I know like Mace is a Jacksonville football fan and stuff. So I mean, he'll bring a little bit of things with him, but I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure that had to be. I mean, that's my wife and I. I don't want to say we hate living in New York, but we want to move so badly, and the kids are really the only reason I think we still live here because we're thinking to ourselves, same reason. Like my brothers are here. My middle brother's moving away, but her parents are
Where's he
here.
moving?
He's moving up to the mountains ish,
Okay. Okay.
probably New Hampshire, Maine type of thing.
Ooh, nice.
But he's 38 years old, financially independent. He's quitting his job and just going to be a ski bum. But I think my in-laws being here, but it's like and the home piece. I'm a homebody. I like going into every pizzeria and everybody knows my name.
Hmm.
I've been in this house since 1985. Like I know that I can drive to work with my eyes shut. Things like that. But there's a part of me that wishes I had that like little bit of adventure that you have. But I don't.
Yeah, and I mean that was definitely something I'm glad we checked off the list. Like
Yeah.
I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we got to experience it, but like now I'm like ready to like live that part of my life. Like I had some fun, like we got to travel with the kids and stuff, but now I'm like I'm ready to buckle down. I'm ready to get back into like working hard because that's something else I want to touch on too, man.
I was gonna say, are you still a YouTuber?
Well, now I am. Yeah, I took like 8 months off. So with the dividend tracker, like that was a big part of my life too. Is I decided to sell my portion to Bryce, the co-owner of Dividend Tracker, and that was a very, very big decision for me because that company was a baby of mine, right?
Yep.
Me and Bryce built that from the ground up, and I remember talking to you about making the decision on that, and like wanted your opinion, and talked to a
Sell.
couple other talked to a couple other guys, and that's the best part about having friends in this space is like I have those friends I can bounce those ideas off of, like those big life decisions. But man, I went through some mental times, some mental toughness after that was over because after I sold the company, I took some time off YouTube and just kind of like relaxed, and I didn't know what the hell to do. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna run a marathon because my best friend's this ultra runner now, some kick ass ultra runner. So I gotta try stick with him a little bit, which never happened. But I did run the marathon, so I'm proud of that. But we'll talk about that later. But um, yeah, dude. I mean, it was just the point I wanted to make with that is I figured out that the ultimate goal we've always had before was like becoming financially independent, quitting our jobs, like living
Yeah.
that what looked like a dream life. But ultimately, man, when I got a little bit of time to do that, I've never been more miserable in my life. Never. And I hope to God I never have to experience that again because that was something that I didn't understand at the time exactly what was going on because I thought I was like, oh, who else wouldn't want to take 8 months off and just like live in Florida? But and like my wife was still working at the time, like just fully transparent here. It's not like we were just like living this lavish vacation life, but I did have to be able to take the time off, and I hated it. Like the first month was cool. The first month was nice. I was like, yeah, it's pretty sweet. But then like month two came around, I was like, what the hell do I do? It was, dude, it was miserable. And so yeah, like now that I'm back in the swing of things, I'm making content again online. I'm a freaking mortgage broker now. Like I took on a new job, which was pretty cool. And I'm loving it. Like I wish I would have done that like 10 years ago. I like that chase. I like the sales type, side of things. And so that's been a lot of fun. But enough about me, because there's something I want to give you props to that not we don't talk about a lot, but is how many days now has it been since you've I don't, and again, we don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but I'm so proud of you, man, for because I know you and I have had many conversations about this. One, if you guys, I don't know if we're posting the video now, probably not, but if you guys can go see Brad's face now when he posts his videos, he looks like a completely different human. So this is a test for everybody. Go watch Brad's latest video and then scroll down and click on a video from 3 years ago. It's a completely different person.
I think I sent you a video the other day.
Oh, I went and looked. Well, whenever you said you're posting YouTube videos again, I went back to look because I clicked on the one you sent me, and like I mean, I've been seeing you recently, so I know what you look like. But I was like, man, I can already tell this is going to be a major difference. And I just like did the real long scroll, and I clicked on the first one that stopped on you at 3 years ago, and dude, like you look like a completely different person. One, because you're running 1,000 miles a day, but two, you haven't had a sip of alcohol in what, almost 2 years now?
Yeah. I mean, it's ironic too because the last time we recorded, I was probably just about a year in. So Christmas Day is my sobriety date. So yeah, I'm coming up on 2 years clean sober,
Bro,
which is
that's
it's
hard every day.
so yeah. I mean, I think when I first decided to like really go all in on it, it was I knew it was going to be like day by day. Sometimes it'd be hour by hour, sometimes it'd be minute by minute, and sometimes the time would just fly.
Hmm.
And I would say for the last almost 2 months, I've been like minute by minute. It's been, I don't know why, but yeah, I mean, like, I'm super stoked on being sober. I never just like anything I've ever done, even when I was plant based back in the day, like I don't tell people what to do. I don't really give a shit what
Right,
you do.
right.
But sobriety was one of those simple things that I think if we talk about like simple things that seem or things that seem very, very simple on paper or things that we know we probably should do and they seem simple on paper, but then you go to execute,
Hmm.
and it's terrible. And like that's kind of the running thing started with the mile challenge, the mile streak, when we were
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
1 mile a day for a year. Like how
That's
hard
hard.
could that be, you know? And we found out really quick. And I mean, many people have an awesome relationship with alcohol. Many people do. My wife, your wife,
Yeah.
and I knew that I never was that guy, but unfortunately for me, I was never like a rock bottom, getting in fights,
Right.
being a degen. Like I was
Being a
always,
shit dad.
yeah, like I was always able to like keep it
You're
together.
functional.
Yeah, on a fine line, on a fine line. Like I had a job that wasn't too physically demanding. I could do with a hangover most of the time. Like, and then I owned a brewery where my job was literally to drink. And
Yeah, you got free beer, dude. Like that's,
yeah,
I mean,
and I when I finally like realized I needed to do it, it was like I got to go all in. I was like, I just got to take it very. It seems simple, and like I said, I don't preach sobriety on people, but I will say that like it's not cliche if you hear me on my other podcasts or on things like that is the greatest success so
mhm.
far, and that's the piece that like I keep holding on to every day. Like I'm super. I was venting to you the other day. I'm pretty upset with myself how I've been performing lately in the running scene, and we can talk about that if we need to.
Okay.
But if I didn't have the the sobriety piece to that, I'd be in shambles. Because like I
Mhm.
said, I know deep in my heart, like it doesn't matter how I perform in races or it doesn't matter how fast I'm running. Sobriety is my greatest accomplishment. So I always have that to fall back on, but it's also like a lot of pressure. It's I love whiskey and a cigar on a cool like evening.
Yeah.
Like I just and I missed the days where I thought that I could do it, but I got to the point where, I was hiding it and I wasn't being completely honest with how much I was drinking and I started to switch from beer over to booze and things just got weird and yeah, I mean, it's it's nice being sober most of the time. It's I think Steve-O was the first person I heard said the hardest part about the hardest part about being an alcoholic is being sober. Like
Mm.
everything else about being an alcoholic is easy because it's selfish, and it's you don't realize or you do realize that you're affecting. It's even worse if you realize how much it's affecting others and you still do it anyway, and I hope that man, I will say I've had like pretty much the beer in my hand a few times. Even after having Lena 2 weeks ago, I had 8 hours in the airport, and these are the things that I'm starting to get proud of. Like I could have had a beer in the airport, and nobody would have known. Nobody would. Like
Yeah.
I could have had five,
Hmm.
and I could have woke up the next day and continued on the sobriety path. And I kind of did that with plant based. Like I started cheating a little bit here and there, and I kept holding on to it before. Like I was just like, all right, this is ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie about this anymore. And it was just something stupid to lie about. But there's been a couple times, and like Tara was just away at a wedding in California,
Hmm.
and I've been really melancholy as of late for whatever reasons, the highs and lows of ebbs and flows of life, and the kids are in bed, and I'm like, I could crack a beer, the kids are in
Yeah.
bed, I could just have one IPA and go to bed, but I just I don't want to be I don't want to be that person I was. And I think about like the every action is a vote for the person that you want to be. And I want to be sober. I really do. And it's been shitty, Jay.
I know, dude. Well, hey, so I don't even know if I've told you this or not, but I mean, I know you and I have talked a little bit about me. Like, you have, dude. I will say this, man. I give you props for this, and Lindsay says the same thing about you. Like, you have like motivated me so much on the physical and like the drinking side too. Like, you're the main reason I ran that marathon, like hands down. Like, I mean, I wanted to test myself and stuff, obviously, but seeing your success in the running space and how much it's changed you as a man and a
Mm.
dad and a husband, I was like, I want to take part in that. And at first, I fucking hated it. Like,
Yeah.
and I did. Like, I hated it.
Yeah. You weren't all in.
No, I wasn't. But I stuck with it, dude. And like, whenever you set up that training for me on the marathon, like I did, like I told myself, I was like, I'm doing this. And I said, I was like, if Brad can do this, like I can freaking do it. And I'm not taking that away from you.
Right, right, right.
I'm taking that as motivation for myself. I'm like, if another man can do this, that's how I think. Like, I know I can do it too. So,
And I'm like your dad's age, so it's like, come on.
yeah, it's you. I think you literally are like right in between me and my dad.
No, we figured this out. I'm close to your dad's age.
No, wait, are you? No, you're not.
I don't know. I'm 43.
You're closer to me by like 2 years, I think.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my dad's like 55.
Can we? I want to talk about the marathon because we've never had a podcast about the
I
marathon.
know. Oh, dude. And I just posted about it yesterday. I was watching it in bed with Lindsay. I'm like, God, babe, I miss this so much.
I. It's one of those, and I've done some cool things, and we could touch upon some of them in the last year or in episodes to come. But
For sure.
dude, I remember every single instant of the 24 hour. Like I could still.
Which,
I
by
could
the
play.
way, I'm
I could
so
play.
glad you recorded it.
Yeah, no, dude. I mean, but even so, like I can still. I'll tell you some things that like really stick out in my mind, and it's funny too how certain things can stick out in my mind that probably you've just forgotten about or
Yeah.
whatever. But like,
Yeah.
so it first off, like you had been running, but here and there, a little bit of consistency, then
Mhm.
falling off, and I think I remember saying to Tyra like. I think I'm just going to be going down to Jay's just to hang out because I don't know if we're going to be able to do this thing. And she's like, if you can get him to walk run, then you'll get it done. And I'm like, there's no way that we're going to be 1 minute into this race. And I'm going to tell this kid to walk and he's going to do it. So like, and I never even told you that that's what we were going to do, but I knew that that's what we had to do with like where you were at.
Yeah.
But first things first, I went to the wrong fucking airport
Oh, dude, I remember that.
on the way there. And I,
I thought you weren't going to make it. I'm like, oh,
dude,
no.
I said to my wife, because my wife is to get to the airport 3 days before for a flight down the block. And I always make fun of her, never again, because she sent me early and she's like, you never know, a train, plane, whatever happens. So I'm on the air train, like heading to the airport, and I'm looking at my terminal. I'm like, this is a number terminal. JFK is in letters. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And then all of a sudden, like I just like scrolled up a little bit and I saw LGA and I'm like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be at LaGuardia. And there's a funny Seinfeld episode of this where they go to LaGuardia and they have to go to JFK. And it's like, it's a mind mess because on paper, they're only 6 miles apart, 7 miles apart, but it's 7 miles in bumper to bumper, like traffic. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm not going to make it. I get down to the Uber downstairs and the Uber was going to be late and there was a private car. I'm like, I'm going to get raked in the face for this. So I'm like, can you compete with the Uber? And he's like, this is my price. And I was like, listen to me. How about this? If you get me to the airport in less than 25 minutes, I will double the Uber and that will be more than your fare. Like charge me. I think he wanted $70 or $60 and Uber wanted 40. I'm like, if you get me there and you get me there like you stole it, I'll give you 80. And I showed him 80 cash. I had cash. I said 80 cash. Here you go. This dude drove like he stole it. It was incredible. Dude, it was incredible. And I ended up getting to the gate like before boarding, like with time.
Yes.
And I just kept thinking to myself, previously when I went to see you, I think for the first time, my plane got canceled and I was so broken down. Like I'm going to see my friend JJ for the first time and Tara ended up driving me to Philly so I could get a
Yes.
flight and I was running through the airport. And this goes to show too how busy we have been because we have never gone more than like 2 months, 3 months without seeing, we haven't seen each other in person since the marathon.
Yeah.
Like-
It's been literally almost a year come February.
And I got off this plane, right, the first week in January. And I just remember, the warmth. Like I'd been full blown winter and you took me and you're like, how about a nice coffee? And I'm like thinking to myself, like a nice coffee in this warm weather. Like it was the most glorious thing. And it had been so nice there. It had been like
beautiful.
75 and sunny and they were calling for torrential downpours for the race. And I'm like, leave it to me to bring
Typical
in
Brad.
bring in the weather.
Yep.
And I remember we we had that, and then we went and we got some pizza. We went for a nice run. You rode on your little scooter bike, and yeah, we woke up and it wasn't raining when we got there, but it was cool for the time. And I just was
There's
like,
definitely a storm coming in. You could
yeah.
feel it.
And I'm like, and you could see it in the video too, because the
Yeah.
video it's like bright and sunny. We're all cheery. I'm dancing, and then we finish, and it's like it's blow. Like it was like Lieutenant Dan. Like
Oh, it's horrible.
you call this a storm, and I'm like pushing you, and you're like, I fucking hate you, and I'm like, you'll love me in a few minutes. And yeah, dude, I remember like we got over the start line, and I started my watch, and I'm like, I'm gonna be disciplined on this kid. And we were 1 minute in, I was like, walk. And you're like, you looked at me like you were dumbfounded. I'm like, you trust me or not? Like, you want to break 5 hours or not? And every mile, it was like mile one, 11:15 pace. Mile two, 11:15 pace. And I think it was probably around 6 or 7 miles. You're like, dude, I feel good. Can we just run? Like, can we
Yeah.
end this walk run bullshit? And I was like, nope. I'm like, we can either continue this and we will be in under 5 hours, or we can get greedy. Like we shouldn't do it the markets when we're feeling good.
Yep.
And we can start to run and you'll blow up. What do you want to do? And you're like, all right, you're like, oh, I'll fucking
Well,
go.
no. So first my goal was sub 5. Like for my first marathon, my goal was sub 5 hours. But two, I remember you asked me, it was like right around mile 8 to 10, somewhere around there. Because I remember you saying like double digits. And I'm like, dude, like I feel so fresh right now. Like, let's keep going. Like this is too slow for me. And you said this, you go, all right, listen, I'll make a deal with you. You said, let's keep this up till mile 18 to 21. If we get to 18 to 21 and you still feel this fresh, we'll take off. And I'm like, deal. Well, oh boy, got to mile 18 to 21. Brad looks over, he goes, all right, you ready to go? I'm like, oh no.
And I think the pain for you started like maybe 20 miles in, but then something glorious happened at 22 miles. And I don't know really if because you were hurt, and I don't really know if you were enjoying yourself too much, but with the rain came all of the people that started with us that weren't
yeah.
disciplined enough and were starting to blow up. And we started catching people. And in a marathon, there's a lot of people, but there's always that like one guy with no shirt on, or the one guy with the funny hat, or you just remember people, you know? And we started picking people off. And
Literally
then,
I felt like every few minutes we were passing.
and we were with our group, and people went off the front of our group, and then we ended up passing them. And it was so weird because we would get to them and they'd be like struggling, and we'd be like, can you, because we were doing 1 minute on, jog for 1 minute, walk for 30 seconds. And we did that for 5 hours, or just under 5 hours. And we would get to people at mile 23 with 5K to go, right? And just say, jog with me for 1 minute.
Yep.
Can you jog with me for 1 minute? And people that thought we were going out way too slow couldn't do it. And I think at like mile 24, I was like, we're going to break. Because, dude, even in the video, you could see it's clockwork. 11:15 doing our job, 11:13. We never deviated from that walk run. We would jog at like 10:30s. And then that 30-second maybe we were like 10:45s. And then that walk would bring us right to that 11:15. And dude, we pinned 11:15 miles for the whole race. And at mile 24, I just remember being like, dude, we're going to do it. And then we made that last turn onto the boardwalk, and it was blowing in our face, like hard, like rain hitting our face, and it hurt. Yeah. And you started to get cold. I wasn't cold. I was like straight up winter. I was loving life. And you were like, dude, I'm starting to get a little chilly. And I'm like, fuck that noise, dude. Like,
my whole body was like shutting down.
And then I started to lie to you. I'm like, we had a buffer. We were good. And I started being like, dude, I kept looking at my watch and looking at you like, dude, we're not going to make it. Like, dude's going to be right there. And you were like shuffling along. And I'm like, oh, dude, he's got about like 2 minutes. And I was like, Jay, we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it. And you were like, oh, and then we got in, man.
Oh, dude. And like crossing that, like, I'll never forget crossing that finish line. And like you said, the rain, dude, it was just coming down. The temperature dropped. My body was just completely annihilated. I've never felt like that in my life. And I remember when I crossed the finish line, there's a part in the video that you can see when I cross and I like bend over, and I lose my breath. Like something went out of whack, and I just started going,
Yeah, it's emotion.
and it was, dude, and I could not get my breath back. And I remember you pointing at a chair, and I was like, "You're like, go sit down and drink a thing of water." And dude, I just, I like came back to, and I was like, "Holy shit, I freaking did it,
Yeah.
dude!" Because like in the video too, you said you're like, yeah, I think your guess was like 5:21 or something like that.
Yeah.
And you thought I was gonna finish, and I told myself, I was like, I told you, I was like, dude, I know this is gonna be hard for me to get sub 5 based on my training. I said, but I really, really want to do this. I said, so I was telling you, I was like, please push me
Yeah.
to get sub 5. And dude, when I crossed that finish line and I saw my watch and it was 4:58, whatever, it was one of the greatest feelings.
Dude,
Like,
not only that, we were with the 5 hour pace group, which helps. If you're ever going to do a marathon
yes,
and you have a goal that's realistic, go with the pace group. And they were doing walk run too. And I'd known that. I looked it up. I saw that they were doing it. And I, it wasn't about going 5 minutes. When I said in the video, I thought you were going to go 5:21. It was because I didn't think you'd be disciplined enough to walk 1 minute into the race. Like we literally
yeah,
walked the
oh
people
yeah,
that were looking at us, like we were crazy when we were a quarter of a mile in, not even 1 minute in,
you
and
could
we
still
started
see the
walking.
starting line.
Yes. And we started walking. And I'm like, this is what we're going to do. And the Pacers were like, this is what we're going to do. And you were like all confused. But it was also too spending time with them. And they knew how important it was to you as well. And
Yeah,
there was a point where I was like, let's dust this pace group. And you were like, because you're a good old boy. And you're like, I don't know, man. They've done so much for us. Let's all finish together. And I was like, no, dude, like you're allowed to finish strong. And then you're like, I don't know. And the one guy that was with us like kind of heard us talk, and he's like, no, you guys go.
yeah, he
Like,
did. The one of the head guys that was like had the pace group or whatever
yeah, and he's
sign.
like,
He looked at
you
us.
go.
He goes, if you want sub 5, he goes, take off now.
Yeah, he's like,
And
go.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm hurting, but okay, let's do this.
Yeah, man. I mean,
Uh,
it was good on so many different levels. I thought I thought you were gonna catch the bug. I thought you were gonna be hooked.
yeah, I mean,
I thought we'd be talking about 100 milers now.
I know. I thought I was too, man. But the more, so here's my thing. Well, one, I started training for a 50K, and I'm still gonna do that. I know I will. I made a promise to myself to do that, but I had an injury after that, and I had some hernia shit or something going on. Every time I would run, I'd have like this weird waist pain, and it was
You know what the waist
horrible.
is connected to?
Oh my God, here we go. So ultimately, though, what it was is like I just didn't like spending that much time
Right.
running. I
Yes.
didn't like. I didn't. I love running, and I'm gonna do a 50K just because I want to get that off my checklist. But I know myself, and I don't want to. I don't. I love running, but I don't love running enough to make it that much of my day.
Dude, it isn't and that was my biggest downfall. Like that's the thing. I mean, geez, I was spending 5 hours a day,
Yeah, like
5 hours on Saturday, 5 hours on Sunday, and it's a lot. It is. And
yeah.
that part of it made it not fun for sure.
And well, and so that's what happened to me too. Is I was like, it was kind of like an all or nothing. I felt like
Yeah.
at first, and I was like, man, I don't want to do this, so I'm not gonna keep running, I guess. Which the injury kind of really did mess me up, but now I'm good to start running now. But I told myself, I was like, okay, well, if I'm not gonna do this training and I'm not gonna do this, I guess I'm just gonna stop running altogether. So I went back in the gym and started like lifting weights and stuff. But now after I just talked to you the other night, I'm like, I thought about it and I was like, I don't have to run. I don't have to get to 100 Ks. I don't have to get to 100-mile races. Like that's not me. It's not. But that doesn't mean that I have to stop running. Like so for right now, I'm gonna train for a half marathon in February.
Yeah.
Like that's my new goal. Have I ran a half marathon? Yeah, I've ran a half marathon plenty of times in training for the marathon race. And then my goal will be maybe to run another marathon in summer or, in spring or something like that. So like that's I think been my mental block is knowing that I didn't want to go that extra distance,
Hmm.
that I thought I had to stop it altogether when I was like, no, I should still keep running. It's just I don't need to do these massive distances. Like, I mean, like you have. I mean, dude, you've done some crazy shit. Like you just did the Javelina 100
Hmm.
out in Arizona.
Yeah.
100 miles you ran for what, 27 hours or something like that?
Yeah.
absolutely insane. I would love to be able to do that, but I don't have the commitment to do it. I can't. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to say I can't, but I just don't I don't
No,
I can't spend that time doing it.
it's not that you can't. It's just a choice that you make. And I mean,
No, that's what I mean. Like I
to
don't want to.
bring it
Yes.
to bring this like full circle to money, because I mean, I do forget that that was like how much we really were able to help guys. And I mean, it's funny, the people that are still around from the early days, like Corey's now a runner and
Yeah.
things
Yeah. I
like
love
that.
it.
These people that have been around and people that I'm coaching, I'm like, hey man, like, you know, I'm coaching this guy Travis now. He's like, I've been around since Baby Steps Brad. And I'm like, holy shit. But
Wow.
I think to the whole, when you mentioned that you thought that maybe it had to lead to these big races where it could just be fun. It
Yeah.
could just be, you know, so, like that's the gratification piece. And bringing it back to money is like everybody thinks that I'm not going to be a millionaire, or I'm not going to be able to do what that guy's doing, or I'm not famous, or I'm not an Instagrammer, or, you know, whatever. So I'm not going to, or like, I can't build a business like that. So they never start. Like
Hmm.
the amount of times, and this happened to you with the running, you're like, I'm not going to be a 100 miler. So why am I running?
Yep.
You know? And so many people are like, I'm older, whether it's their career, where they live, whatever, they'll come up with so many excuses of like looking for the end product, how they're not going to be achieving the end product that somebody else is achieving.
Yep.
And so therefore they're not going to carve their own path. And I've been guilty of that myself. And I mean, growing this Instagram that I've been growing with the running space, and it's part of maybe me being a little bit of a baby recently, is that like I keep having to remind myself that I'm not them, you know, and I mean, even I still trade and I still trade options. And I see these guys, especially now, people are coming back out of the woodworks with the markets raging and everybody's rich off fucking Bitcoin again. And it's like, I keep thinking to myself, like, should I have done that? And at the end of the day, you just got to carve your own path and keep things simple, right? And compound and build bricks and like just stack those bricks and stack those bricks. And I'm so glad that we still hear on a regular basis how people are just keeping it simple. Like, hey, let's get rid of most of our consumer debts if possible. Let's put some money aside and maybe invest some. And then maybe let's YOLO some money as well and F around and find out. I think don't don't be so concerned with like steps 8, 9, and 10, you know, that you don't take steps 1, 2, and 3. And that was, I think, some amazing business advice that I got early on was like, I was talking to a guy that had a business, and it was a guy that owned a brewery when we were going to open the brewery. And I said, you know, Steve, what about this, that, and the other thing? And he's like, how about you just work on getting a building first, bud?
Yeah. Right.
You
Well,
know, like, why don't you just start, like, let's get keys before you worried about how you're going to deliver.
mhm.
Like, you know, let's just get that out of the way first. And you know, back to before when I mentioned sell. If Bryce is listening, like I didn't tell you to sell because I thought it was a crappy company. They're still thriving and doing well.
Yep.
As a business guy, as somebody that was unbiased to that situation, I just knew it was a good exit time for you and especially the opportunities that you were going to have to grow. And I learned that through selling multiple businesses before. So I just remember like Bryce is listening, like he told them to sell. Like it wasn't like that, Bryce. It wasn't like that, buddy. But no, it's just take steps 1, 2, and 3. Like you just mentioned, it was perfect. Like I'm just gonna get out there and run a half marathon. Have you run a half
Yep.
marathon before? Hell yeah. And maybe it'll be slower than any half, but at least you'll be doing something. At least you'll
Well,
be working towards it.
and the point I want to make on top of that too is like you really got to enjoy the journey. You
Yeah.
know, like I look back to when, you know, we talk about the dividend tracker and me and Bryce and like us starting that company together. During the tough times of building that, like you don't truly appreciate it, what's going on. And I'm sure the same thing with you and Chris when you guys built the brewery and stuff. Like there were some tough times, but then you look back and you're like, man, that was so much fun. And that's something we're always gonna remember in our lives, that like
Yep.
those times of like sacrifice and, you know, the tough times that were given at us and thrown our way, but you're able to, you know, get through that obstacle and figure out a way to fix whatever issue you're going through. And like that's it. That has been something I've really learned to appreciate, is to enjoy the journey, because once you get to that end point or you get to that point of like, you know, accomplishment, the best things to go back and look at on life is like the journey to get there, like training for the marathon. I remember putting my pack on and going out for my long runs, my freaking, 14-mile runs, 17-mile runs, running 13-minute pace per mile because I had to keep my freaking heart rate down and all this crap. And it was just like I look back at those times though, and I remember, man, like some of my best thinking with myself that I've ever had has come from my long runs. And I crave that right now,
Yeah.
man. Like I know I need that back in my life. So I'm so excited to get back on this training plan for this half marathon. And that's the other thing for me too. I'm not a runner. Like, okay, I am a runner, but I'm not a runner that just enjoys running enough to just go out and run 2 miles, 3 miles, 5 miles a day. I have to have something on the schedule for me to do this.
Right.
I've learned that about myself. Like that's how I
Yeah,
am.
no, some people need that, outside motivation. Yeah,
Yes. I can't just get out and be like, all right, this week I'm going to run, 15 miles. Like I just
I'm
don't
the
work.
same way.
Yeah. So I'm super excited for this half marathon coming up, and I haven't signed up for anything yet, but I'm going to start the training process. Actually tonight I'm going to the gym just to like start working out, and then tomorrow I'm starting to run.
I think
So
yeah, no, I think it's also worth mentioning, and you mentioned that peace of mind. Like as we get older, dude, we have so much noise in our life. We have so much going on behind the scenes and so much going on in the background that, just even if it's just going for a walk,
yeah,
even if
yep,
it's just getting out of the house and just breathe, like that is so important to just sometimes just quiet the noise that's in our heads,
yeah,
and I mean, that's been the solitude that I found. And that's part of the reason why I love, dude, I think about in the last year, I have seen the sun set and rise like 4 times, like in a run. And I have had so like I mean obviously I've seen the sunrise as a person, but like there's something like I remember towards the end of summer I was on the Appalachian Trail and with my buddy Jacob, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm deep in the woods, like far from anything, dude. And it's just like I realized, man, I had to be 42 years old to figure this out. That like just finding a buddy that will go walk 25 hours with you through the woods,
it's
in the
crazy.
darkness, drinking out of streams, taking a dirt nap or on maybe an ant hill, didn't matter, just laying down in the middle of the dirt and just passing out for 20 minutes. Like those are the things that have made me feel alive. And I feel like I need to get back to that, where I need to get back to having fun with it and enjoying the journey. I got so caught up in the next big race and the next big challenge that it wasn't fun for me anymore. And dude, the journey, like I remember being at FinCon and you and Bryce like in the corner, like getting ready to start this thing and me being like, he has a new friend, and I'm like, I'm like, I guess I'll go find somebody to talk to, and then boom. And then a couple of years later, it's a multi-million-dollar company. It's like, that's those little things. Yeah. You can't, which is why I still document them because I'm so dumb. I'll forget,
Yeah.
but I mean, I said, I've done things this year, but that marathon, dude, I remember the steakhouse we went to. I remember
Hmm.
ordering. I got a Stella Zero.
Yep.
Because like I said, like, dude, that was early on in the sobriety.
Yeah.
Like that was a very easy opportunity where I could have said to you, like, dude, I'm gonna have a beer, and you would have
Yeah.
been like, I'm not gonna tell nobody. Like, but I'm glad I didn't that time. I'm glad I didn't many times, and I'm glad that that's a part of the memory because if I got wasted.
Yeah.
Like, dude, the amount of that trip when I came to see you in February that first time and we drank for 5 days,
Oh, we
like
drank
straight.
way too much.
Like I drink. You got a rack for a suitcase for your brother of Bush, and I think I drank the whole thing like before he got there. You were like, dude, how'd you have 20 beers?
Well,
It's only 5 p.m.
here's the other props to you too, man. When we went to the public dinner in the Sky
Oh,
Penthouse high rise in New York City.
oh my God.
So Brad and I would do an options trading, like public released their options platform, and they invited a couple of like content creators in the option space. And Brad and I got invited to this penthouse in New York City with the co-founders of Public. And what a cool experience that was, by the way. Shout out to Public
Yeah.
for hooking us up with that. But man, like that's another thing like I'll never forget. But with that, it was an open bar. They had this like Michelin star chef or whatever they're called. Isn't that how you say that? I don't even know how that freaking what it's called, but some fancy chef came in and had like this 4 or 5 course dinner. And it was unlimited booze. And it was like 3 days out from the marathon, and I was just throwing down gin and tonics. And then Brad's over here, he stuck
There
with it.
was there was what, 15, 20 people?
Yeah. I mean,
And
maybe, yeah, probably around there.
it was one of those dinners where like us weirdos, like we took a picture of our food. Like I was texting my
Yeah.
wife, like I was texting my wife, like I'm about to have truffled caviar or whatever. Like
Yes. Well,
was
dude, like we could see the whole skyline of the city. Like
it
it
was
was
it was above our pay. It was above our pay grade. Like even
absolutely.
like we've done some fancy shit, and we've had a couple VIP experiences. Not to toot our own horns, but like I mean, you call me and you're like, she's been trying to contact you, like, and I'm like, yeah, I don't look at my emails anymore. Like I'm done with YouTube. And you're like, hey, it sounds pretty cool. They're flying me up there. Like they'll probably get you in there. It was in New York City, and yeah, we walk in, and the first like,
Well, we walked in the elevator with the owners.
oh yeah, like we didn't expect that, and then we
Yeah.
started shooting shit with them, and and then they're just like, oh, I can't wait to pour myself a drink, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, here we go, and
Uh,
I'm like, Jay, what do you think the odds that there's going to be anything besides water? And he's like, they're probably going to have soda to mix some drinks with. So we walk in, and yeah, there's like 15 people, and it's top of the line. It's top shelf booze, top
it
shelf
was,
wines,
yeah, it was
like
nuts.
sommelier wines and things like that. And it was once what would have been my ultimate playground. Like, dude,
Yeah.
I think I ended up going home that night. There's no shot that I would have taken the train home.
Bro, we went out on the town afterwards. And
Yeah.
you bought me a beer at the bar.
And
Because I
didn't
remember
have
like went to the restroom or whatever, and I came back and you had the beer bought, and I was like, "All right, dude, what are you sipping on?" He's like, "Ah, I'm good, man. I'm good."
Yeah,
Dude,
I was,
like I give you props, man.
and everyone got kind of banged up.
Oh yeah. I mean, by the end of the night, like
Like I said, it was like literally you could stand there
yeah.
and just it was shot. It was whatever you wanted, and everyone was having a grand old time. Which is funny too, being the sober guy now at a drunk party. But oh yeah, you were right. I totally forgot. Like that was tough. When that was like February.
Yeah, it was literally like 3 days before the race.
It was before the race.
Yeah, because
Oh,
you were flying down like that weekend.
oh my gosh, yeah,
Yep,
dude, that was a tough night, man.
it was.
Like weddings is one thing. It's always like crappy
Yeah.
booze, but this was like when you have the opportunity to drink these like high-end bourbons and scotches, and like that's my bread and butter. Like screw a gin and tonic. I mean I love a gin and tonic, but that was like a Tuesday.
Hmm.
Like to have these oh God, yeah, that was a
But that
bit
goes to show though how mentally strong you've been
yeah.
throughout this process, man. Like you
But
literally have.
but I wouldn't have been able to do it without people like you there to support me, because at zero time were you ever like, dude, you can have a drink.
Yeah.
Like you've been sober for a year. I won't let you get drunk. You could have one. You could have very easily been that guy,
Hmm.
but and when you're trying to overcome something, and like you're not an alcoholic. So also you're trying to understand like what it's like to be me, right? Like I know like people that have like anxiety issues and stuff, like you don't know what anxiety is like unless you either live with somebody with anxiety or you deal with it yourself. And the same is with alcoholism. Like it's very easy to look at somebody and be like, "Oh, you got a problem drinking, bud? You got a
Hmm.
like just have 2 beers and shut the fuck up." Like unless it's very hard to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, but you were in that situation that night where you were like, "Don't even come in this room. Like go into the other room. I'll bring you a soda." Like you knew that you didn't even want me looking at the bar. You're like, just, hey, don't make this harder on yourself. I'll get you a Coke, go in the other room. And that was it. And like, because back to this airport thing, like early on, it would have been so easy to just boom. And that's another reason why I knew that I had a drinking problem. When
Yeah.
I'm sitting there contemplating, like, hey, I wonder if I could get away with having a drink right now. Like, dude, I'm a grown ass man in my 40s, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out, like, does anybody here know me? What if somebody walks up to me and I'm drinking like that's how I knew that I had a real freaking drinking problem. And
Yeah.
yeah, alone, no shot. Like I've had and I've earned the respect, and I've gotten mentors over the last year. And there's guys now that I told you in the beginning of the podcast, like that I'm going minute by minute right now. And
Yeah.
there's been a couple of phone calls in the last couple of weeks where I'm calling dudes at 3 o'clock in the morning, like just like, hey, just remind me again why I'm not going downstairs and having a drink. And that's those are very important people. And you need those people. Listen, not to go back to the money thing or anything, but like we are a pack animals. Like you need, and I'm introverted. I'm a little loner by nature. I don't like crowds, but you need to have people in your life to set examples, and you need people in your life. And you said like what I've done has inspired you to do stuff, and it's always weird. One, having your friends give you compliments, like that's always awkward. But we have a bromance, so like we've always taken that. Like we say I love you and things like that. But it's you don't. It's
You're also the guy my wife's going to call to help with the finance stuff if I die. We made that promise to each other.
Exactly. Baby girl, don't worry about what accounts I have. Just call JJ.
That's it.
But you need like people that align with the goals that you want to achieve. And it doesn't matter what that goal is. Like I have my drinking support system. I have my running friends. I have my day trading friends. I have my options friends. I have my New York Rangers and New York Met friends. Like you need to have those people in your life. And I think without, I don't even really give a shit about politics anymore, but like, it's okay if you agree with somebody on one thing and you disagree with them on another thing. Like that's okay.
Yep.
Like that is totally fine. You can use somebody as support for one thing and despise them for another.
Yeah.
Like that's okay. It's not cut and dry. It's not yes or no. It's not should you pay off your mortgage or not. It's not is QQQ better than the SPY? All these things, we've become so cut and dry.
Yeah.
And as I get older now, I'm just like looking back and it's not 100 miles or bust. It's, hey, let's go out and run a couple of times. Let's be consistent. And I don't even think it needs to be total sobriety. It could be like, dude, you're very good you're one of those guys that doesn't drink often. When you drink, you get drunk. Mm-hmm. But like you can handle that. Like you never, I remember coming to see you, man. And you're like, oh, we have to go run and pick up some beer. I'm like, you don't have beer in your refrigerator?
I don't have it in my fridge now.
And I'm like, and I just remember thinking how freaking foreign that was to me.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up with alcoholics and all my friends are drinker. Like I've never just like showed up to someone's house and they didn't like, that's a salutation where I'm from. Like you walk in, what can I get you to drink? And I'm not going to just have one. Even to this day, I'm sober. You come to my house, you have a choice of, if you drink it, I have it.
Yeah.
Because that's like the host in me. That's always, and like a lot of my friends now, they don't drink. Or even like my brothers slowed down and they're like, I have beers in my fridge from like, when you have like a gathering and everyone brings a 12-pack, but they only drink 2 beers and then you have beer. And dude, I used to not realize that happened because when I had a party and there was a full fridge, that shit was gone by the end of the week.
Yep.
But it's like, dude, I got beers in my fridge probably that you bought I probably have Stella's in the fridge upstairs from the last time that you were here a year and a half ago. And
when we did the beer mile.
Oh, we did do the beer mile. We did do the beer mile. And, I think about times like that and I'm like, man, I was making games with drinking like that.
Yeah.
There's so many red flags in hindsight, but like you have a very, very good relationship with that. But I remember coming to your house and I'm like, wait, you don't have like cold beer. Like when I came to pick you up, I had a sandwich and a couple beers and a gin and tonic waiting for you in the car. Like before you sat down, you're like, oh, New York City. And I just started throwing. So you're like, you were cracking a beer. And it was fun. The next time I came to see you, you had a little like soft cooler with a couple beers for me for the car ride back from St. Louis. And I'm like, all right, this guy really knows me now.
Oh man, gosh!
Now it's like I'll have some unsweetened iced tea, peach flavor if you have it. Fucking nerd.
No, it's good, dude. I mean, like I said, I'll give you props for sure on what all you've done the past few years. But it's also been cool to see the community and stuff that they've done. Like,
We're
we'll
all
wrap
getting
it.
old together. We're seeing
I,
people grow up right before our very
Dude,
eyes.
it's crazy, man. Like we have listeners that, have messaged you or I throughout the years, and when big moments happen in their life, like it's really cool that they think of us to let us know like, hey man,
Yes.
I just did this. And I did this, either just because they chose to do it on their own or whatever it is. It's such a cool feeling to be included in someone's like journey like that.
Yeah.
And that's the whole reason why Brad and I have discussed and like tried to like say, all right, we got to get this podcast back going because although we each one of us have our YouTube channels, but I do feel like the tightest relationships with people that Brad and I don't know personally has come from the podcast
Yes.
because it's a different setting. Like, you get to know us, you get to see our story and then things unfold and everyone's going through some of the same shit together in life. Like we have listeners who have kids, our kids' age. We have listeners who started picking up running when I did. And, everyone's kind of going through the same thing or like doing money stuff like Heidi with the mortgage and her husband and guys becoming debt free and then or starting to invest or opening up a Roth, whatever it is. Like
Keep telling
it
us about
makes,
that stuff.
well, it makes me like, it gives us fulfillment in life, man. Like that's the big thing. And something else I wanted to touch on that I just remembered you were talking about earlier about like the friendships and all that is also with me getting older, I have realized that one of the most important things next to my family is making sure that, and this is something I used to not do, and I hate that I did this, especially like growing up, and I teach my son to focus on this now, is you need to put time into friendships.
Hmm.
Like put time into your friendships like you do your marriage. I mean, obviously marriage comes first, but it sometimes you may be like, I'm not gonna like text this guy or I'm not gonna do this or whatever. Like sometimes you just reaching out of spur out of the moment out of nowhere, like that helps build that trust, that helps build that friendship and that connection. And like, let's be honest, what I've come to figure out too, being older, is like friendships and relationships you build with people is literally the like meaning of life.
Hmm.
Like love and friendships and all that is what makes a person just like happy. It gives you meaning in life.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I've really tried to focus on over the past couple of years, man, is like really trying to focus on building solid relationships with people because that's truly what brings me joy. And
Yeah.
doing that here in a new town, not knowing a single soul, I really I really have taken it upon myself to reach out, to get in front of people, to introduce myself, to say hey, so hey, you guys want to grab beers or whatever it is, or grab go get a stogie or whatever. I don't know, whatever the stuff that people drink alcohol do.
Whatever people with a social life do.
That's right. Yeah, right.
You guys want to maybe get some food?
You want to go around 100 miles on the Appalachian Trail or?
We haven't seen. I said this to my buddy Jacob the other day. I'm like, we haven't seen the sunrise together in a really long time. He's
Oh
like,
my
that's
gosh.
weird. And then, sure enough, 2 weeks later, he paced me in Javelina, and he's like such a happy-go-lucky guy, and the sun was coming up. I'm like, man, Jake, I've seen more sunrises with you than pretty much anybody. Like even my wife, like we never seen this many sunrises. He's like,
Were you holding his hand?
no, but we were pretty close, and I was in a very vulnerable state. But I remember him just being like, "Many more sunrises to come, Brad. Many more sunrises to come." And I was like, "That was probably the gayest thing you've ever said." But it was true. Like
No, it's good.
I have found vulnerability in friendships, and like you said, like work towards them. My biggest thing was always like having a problem, finding vulnerability enough to let my friends know how much they meant to me and how important they were to me. And there was so many times where I was thinking to myself, like, oh, that was awesome what that guy did for me, or man, I wish this person knew how important they really were to me. Or one thing, and then you realize, wow, I should just tell them, and
Yeah.
my buddy John that passed away, the guy that worked for me at the brewery, like the one thing that banged me up the most about him passing on is like, he was the guy in our group that we all picked on. Like he was the guy that we never told him how important he was to us. We never gave, like, we picked on him. You know, we
Hmm.
we bullied the shit out of him, and I think he knew. I hope he knew how much we really loved him. But like, man, I remember being, I was freaking, I broke down, and Tara's like, I know you like the guy, but like, I didn't know you were like this invested in him. And I'm like, the reason you didn't know that is because I wasn't man enough to say it. You know, I wasn't man enough to be vulnerable enough to let him know from time to time. And now I'm feeling survivor's remorse in an incredible way because I'm fearful that he didn't realize how much me and everyone loved him at the brewery. And that was a huge perspective piece too. Like I started telling my friends I loved him more. And, I started, I'm still a ball buster at heart. Like that's still me. But I really make sure that for all the ball busting I'm going to do, I let people know how important they are. And yeah, it's been really nice getting a little, we keep saying getting a little bit older, but it's true. And yeah, man, I remember people on the podcast doing live streams where like people finding out they're pregnant and now their kids
Yeah.
are like in first grade,
Oh
and
man.
so many of us that stuck through and played the long game, they're doing well.
Yep.
And if you're just catching on now, or like maybe you got us right before we stopped and you weren't sure, like I think it's been really, really great in getting that message from Heidi once again, like just bringing things into perspective that we told people to play the long game, and a lot of people didn't listen, especially going through February 2021 when, everything started popping off in memes and everyone's getting rich quick and then blowing it. Like there was a few selective people, whether they told us or not, maybe the group is bigger than we think, but that stuck with the long game with us,
Mhm.
and they are crushing. And we're not here to toot our own horns. We are financially in an incredible spot, and still VTI investors,
Mhm.
still not doing anything crazy, still, using 10% of our wealth to maybe do a little some speculative stuff or some
Yep.
growth stuff. And, it's just still just putting money aside, living below your means,
That's it.
avoiding some debt. We still drive old cars,
Oh, can
and
I be vulnerable here for a second?
yeah, dude, let's go. Let's do it.
Guess what I almost bought today?
Mwah.
A Ford Raptor.
Oh my God, stop.
I did, dude. Like Lindsay was like, "Go do it."
No,
I almost did it.
don't do it.
Oh, I didn't. I didn't for sure. Even my mom called me this
At the
morning.
end of the
She's like,
day, it's just a pickup truck. A
"Oh,
pickup truck should not be 100 grand.
this one wasn't. It was 50."
That's pretty nice.
I know. That's why I wanted to buy it.
One of my biggest problem with the Raptor, beside the fact that it's a Ford and Ford's trash, but
What?
the fact that it has to like scream Raptor, like it's pretty much wrapped in the word Raptor.
No, I mean, yeah, like that's part of it though. Like it's kind of flashy, and I like that.
Yeah, but yeah, that I'm not flashy, so that's on you, man.
Yeah. No, I'm a
I'm gonna
little.
roll my eyes at you, but
That's
go for it.
fine.
Go for it.
Oh, it's so, dude. I'm not buying it, but it's. Oh, I want it so bad.
I mean,
I've been driving. Well, hang on. For context here,
I rolled
I've
my eyes at
been.
when you bought a freaking golf cart or whatever you bought in Florida, and I was like, come
Oh,
on.
that was so fun though. But no, man. Like I've been driving the same car that my wife's had since high school. Like just to put this into context, like
Yeah,
so I haven't spent any money on cars, and I'm kind of like, all right, I kind of want this truck, but I didn't do it.
don't do it.
I'm not.
Don't do it. Buy
Not,
something.
not
Buy something cooler, like a desk to put in your background.
you hate my backgrounds.
Just looks like you just moved in.
I
Then
did.
you got like Christmas lights or whatever's on the TV's been distracting the shit out of me the whole time. Like I'm watching like sports highlights, and now it's like a Christmas scene, and then it goes back to
Oh,
sports highlights.
jeez. Well, it's ads
That's for what? Oh,
on
because
YouTube. Yeah, this is on YouTube.
it's a YouTube thing on your screen back there.
Yeah.
Is that where you do your review videos on?
No, well, usually what people see is the other side, like what I'm facing. Like I
Oh.
turn around, I put the camera right here, and then you see the background of me.
I like that set that you made.
Oh, the one I have now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it too. It fits like the
Not
the
this.
wall and stuff.
This.
No, I know. I know this one, the one I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Like the one in my YouTube videos.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's dope.
Yeah.
I like that.
Thanks. Me too.
So you're
Well,
going to
cool,
the gym?
dude.
You going to the gym tonight?
I am right after we get off. Well, once the kids go to bed, I'm gonna go. So
Where do your kids go to bed? Like 11:30 these days?
yeah, pretty much.
I'm going in the sauna.
Nice.
Big sauna guy.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Big sauna guy.
You
You
still
ever,
doing the cold plunges?
speaking of vulnerable, if you ever want to come hop in the sauna.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
no, a cold plunge. Yeah, I love cold plunge. But
Yeah.
I did more of the sauna for javelina. I've been like,
Yeah, the heat.
I had to heat train, and now like that's gone. Yeah, no, the sauna is different than the cold plunge.
Hmm.
I don't want to say easier,
Oh, I
but
would
it's,
100% say it's easier.
dude, it's not.
Oh yeah.
Minutes
I can take
minutes
heat, bro.
minutes 18 to 25.
Okay, well that's hard. Yeah, going that long, yeah,
Yeah.
that's tough. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think the sauna, but like I feel better when I get out of the sauna. Like I've been using it to sleep.
Oh,
Like
nice. That's a good idea.
I just feel really good when I get out. I break a
Do you
good
just
sweat.
do you just have one of those like Amazon ones that you just kind of like prop up and there's like plastic?
No, no, like I have a wooden infrared one.
Oh, okay.
You know
Okay.
Andy Glaze.
Yeah.
You know how he's
It
always
is?
in. Yeah, it's pretty much the same one he has.
Okay. Oh, those are nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh,
It's
look
good.
at you. Don't tell me not to get a Ford Raptor.
Dude, I got mine was a gift.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of a big deal.
All right. Dang.
I
Look
don't
at
know if
you.
you knew about this in the running space. You know,
Mhm.
you might be the YouTube guy, but in the running space, check out the big brains on Brad over here. You know,
All right. All right. Very nice.
very very nice. When you doing this? When is this half marathon? I
Well,
can't fly for a half marathon, but
one,
I told
one
you
of them.
told you I'd fly for the 50K. I'm not flying for a half marathon.
Yeah, no, 50K is gonna happen. One of them, the one I was looking at's in February.
What about the 50K with me in April?
If I'm up to it and I like keep running and keep training till then, I think I could probably pull it off.
April 13th, anniversary
Okay.
of Dominic's death.
All right. Well, I can't make any promises because we know what's happened in the past, so we'll see.
I think you just need to commit.
Yeah, I know.
Because if anything, you're frugal. If you buy
Well-
if you buy flights,
Yeah.
you'll do it.
I know, but here's my thing though, dude. I got so much going on right now personally in my life, like with job, like
Sounds like a lot of noise. Sounds like you need a long run.
No, here's this. I mean, just let me finish this and then we'll wrap this up because I got to get off here. But I have real estate investing stuff I'm working on right now, flips, and I got some tax lien stuff coming up I want to get into. I have my mortgage broker job I'm taking on that's literally taking up all my time, and then while still trying to keep YouTube afloat as well, and then raising a family and then everything else on top of that, and managing a house, like it's a lot, but. That's why I don't want to just overdo it right now. I want to
I get
see
it.
kind of how things go, and I don't want to commit to anything right now.
I know.
I'm not saying no. I'm not
I
saying no.
selfishly just want another running buddy.
I want to come up there and run it. I will say that I want to do it, but I'm not going to commit yet. Let me get to the half marathon and see how that goes.
I know the RD, so if you want to get in, you're in.
Okay, sweet.
Just got to get up here.
All right.
If you buy the flights and don't do it, you have to stay at the finish line like I pussed out of this race.
I'll do it. Well, again, I'm not committing, so we'll. Oh,
You're
you're
over-
saying if I buy the flights? Yeah. Okay.
You're non-committal. You're non-committal.
Okay. Well, we'll stay tuned. We'll see if I run it.
Are we gonna make another episode, or is this the one episode for the year? I just want to let the people know.
I guess we'll wait and see how everything turns out. I'm not committing.
Non-committal.
No,
All right.
but I mean, I had fun with this, and I do miss the podcast a lot, man. I mean, you and I have always been going back and forth, and like the amount. I will say this: shout out to everyone. Like,
That
this is
kept
also what.
reminding us to start.
Well, this is what also puts our like the podcast into perspective for me is the amount of people that have reached out over the past year and a half is like, hey, when's the podcast coming back? When's the podcast coming back? Are you guys done? That means a lot to Brad and I. And every time we get something like that, we'll take a screenshot and send it to each other. We're like, all right, are we doing this or what? So thanks to everyone who has literally been out there listening. And because like you guys do mean the world to Brad and I. Because like Brad and I would talk Brad and I still talk and do this stuff, but we don't have like set times to sit down and record. But it is nice to know that like we kind of have like friends on the outside listening and, building that friendship together. So it's cool. I like it a lot.
I'm on Instagram as Brad Trains. If anybody didn't know.
There you go. Brad Trains. I'm still good old JJ Buckner.
Brad Trains.
Well, let's see how this goes, man. Let's see how the old podcast thing comes back into
The
play.
old fuck around, find out.
Well, good. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the update. I hope it's been a while since you've heard our voices, but we're still here. We're still kicking. So it's let's see where it goes.
See you next week.
Yeah, maybe. All right. See you
I'm
guys.
gonna end recording now.
All right.
Later.